In 2000, at the absolute peak of the dot-com bubble, Masayoshi Son briefly became the richest man on earth. Not for a year, not for a month, for a moment. Then the bubble burst, and in a matter of months, he lost nearly $70 billion on paper, one of the largest personal wealth losses in modern financial history. Investors panicked, critics mocked him, and many believed his empire would collapse. But what made Son different was that he was never building for quarterly earnings or short-term validation. Through SoftBank Group, he was building with a 300-year vision, a strategy so long-term and so audacious that temporary S meant nothing to him. While others saw catastrophe, Son saw reset. While others protected what remained, he prepared for the next technological explosion. This wasn't just a story about losing billions. It was a story about conviction so extreme that even historic failure couldn't shake it. In 1999, a relatively unknown English teacher from China walked into a meeting with Masayoshi Son. His name was Jack Ma. The meeting lasted less than 6 minutes. There was no detailed financial model, no sophisticated slide deck, no proven revenue machine. What Son saw wasn't numbers, it was fire. He later said he could see the animal spirit in Jack Ma's eyes. Within days, through SoftBank Group, Son invested $20 million into a tiny startup called Alibaba Group. At the time, China's internet market was still immature, e-commerce was improving, and global giants like Amazon were already dominating the narrative in the West. Most investors would have hesitated. Son didn't. That $20 million bet eventually turned into one of the greatest venture investments in history, worth more than $100 billion at its peak. It wasn't luck. It was pattern recognition. Son wasn't investing in what existed. He was investing in what the world would become. After proving himself with Alibaba, Masayoshi Son didn't slow down. He escalated. In 2017, through SoftBank Group, he launched the largest technology investment fund in history, the Vision Fund, with nearly $100 billion in capital. Backed heavily by investors including Public Investment Fund and Mubadala Investment Company, the fund was built around one radical belief: artificial intelligence would reshape every industry on Earth. Son began placing massive bets, sometimes billions at a time, into companies he believed would dominate the AI-driven future, including Uber, WeWork, Arm Holdings, and dozens of high-growth startups around the world. Critics called it reckless. They said the checks were too large, the valuations too inflated, the optimism too extreme. And when some bets, especially WeWork, collapsed spectacularly, the world once again questioned Son's judgment. But to him, volatility was the price of transformation. He wasn't trying to win safely. He was trying to dominate the next technological era. When WeWork's failed IPO exploded into one of Silicon Valley's most embarrassing implosions, the spotlight turned brutally toward Masayoshi Son. Billions were wiped out, the Vision Fund reported massive losses, and critics declared that the era of reckless mega-investing was over. Commentators accused him of inflating valuations, encouraging unsustainable growth, and confusing scale with substance. For a moment, it felt like 2000 all over again. Another bubble, another collapse, another public humiliation. But Masayoshi Son had lived through worse. Instead of retreating, he recalibrated. He tightened oversight, restructured failing investments, and began focusing aggressively on artificial intelligence infrastructure. His long-term conviction never changed. AI would become the defining force of the century. That belief became even more concrete with SoftBank's deep commitment to ARM and its strategic positioning at the heart of global chip architecture. When ARM returned to the public markets in 2023, it signaled more than just a financial event. It was a statement that Son was still in the game, still betting on the backbone of the AI revolution. Once again, he proved that for him, setbacks were temporary, but vision was permanent. Masayoshi Son doesn't think in quarters. He doesn't even think in decades. He thinks in centuries. For years, he has spoken openly about his 300-year plan, a vision where SoftBank Group becomes a central architect of humanity's technological evolution. To many, that sounds absurd, even delusional. But to Son, it is simply long-term strategy taken to its logical extreme. He believes artificial superintelligence will surpass human intelligence within this century, and that the companies shaping that transition will define the structure of civilization itself. That belief explains his massive, concentrated bets, his tolerance for volatility, and his willingness to endure public humiliation. Where traditional investors diversify to minimize risk, Son concentrates to maximize impact. He searches for founders with intensity, markets on the brink of explosion, and technologies that can scale exponentially. Critics see recklessness. Supporters see conviction. But whether he wins or loses in any given cycle, one thing is undeniable. Masayoshi Son plays a different game. Not for headlines, not for short-term applause, but for a future he believes most people still cannot see. Masayoshi Son has lost tens of billions, twice, and still walks back into the arena with even bigger bets. He turned $20 million into one of the greatest venture returns in history with Alibaba Group. He built the largest tech investment machine the world had ever seen through SoftBank Group. He was humiliated by the collapse of WeWork, and then re-emerged at the center of the AI chip revolution through ARM Holdings. Some call him a visionary decades ahead of everyone else. Others call him the most dangerous gambler in Silicon Valley. But maybe he is something else entirely, a man who understands that the future is never built by playing safe. So here's the real question. Is Masayoshi Son a genius who sees the next century before anyone else? Or a high-stakes bettor who simply survived long enough to look brilliant? Let me know in the comments. Would you bet with him or against him?